Here's what I think is happening. I think to kind of go back to my original premise is as each generation learns how to be empathetic, it naturally allows for them to tap in early to the generations that came before. So it's almost like a preemptive measure that the generations now are having, to where even now at my age, when I see my son doing something different, I automatically tap into how I was treated when I did something different, and I nip it in the bud right away, and I jump right in and saying, okay, this is his world. How do I understand it?
Welcome to 2025 Friday Conversations. Picture a massive freight train rolling down the tracks. Every car is a generation: boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, each one carrying its own experiences, values, and perspectives. Now, here's the thing. Everything in between them are strong metal links. That's us, the people who bridge the gaps, connect the conversations, and keep the whole train moving forward. Friday Conversations is where those couplings come together. It's where generations link up, learn from each other, and build relationships that power the entire train. Let's get rolling. Woo, woo. Over to you, Rob. I'm sorry, Dave.
Well, thanks so much for that. We're done now. No, we appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. I'm Dave Rebel from Standout Mastery, and we're going to go around the room a little bit. But before I do that, I just want to tell you that the Standout Mastery program enrollment is open, and you could be looking into 2026 with a lot of new skills. We'd love to work with you on that. Before I finish that, I want to say welcome, 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 and you're welcome to join us in person here as well. Let me just show you some of my best friends here. Azure, take it over.
All right, my name is Asher. I'm currently enrolled in Eastern Washington University for my first year. I'm currently studying to be a theater major, and I also work on campus at the Career Center there.
Okay, our guest is Romeal. We're going to skip over him for a minute. We're going to go over to Esther.
Hi, I'm Esther. I'm also studying at Eastern, studying psychology, and I'm in my last year, and I work at the visitor center at Eastern.
Fantastic, glad you're here. Melissa.
I am Melissa Byron, and I'm with Thrive Wellness. I am a metabolic stability coach.
Very good. Jonathan.
Hi there, I'm Jonathan Byron. I sell real estate, so love helping people find great deals on real estate. Love working with new agents, all the things.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to be back to you in just a minute, but I want to go to Steven next.
Hey everybody, my name is Steve Hicks, and I'm a fitness coach that works with building sustainable routines that you can maintain for a lifetime. You can see more information at thrivingbody.fit/wellness.
Yay. How about Rob Bruder?
Hey everyone, Rob Bruder here with Idic Designs. I'm a business systems coach, and I help business owners figure out whether or not their workflows and technology are working best for them.
And we're talking saving time, money, all kinds of frustration, right, Rob?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, let me give it over to Jonathan. You have a guest today. We want to hear from him.
We do, and before that though, we want to find out who's out in the mezzanine.
Oh, let's go out there. Who's out there?
I see Natalie.
Yeah, we're glad to be out here and join the conversation. Yeah, we'll introduce ourselves. We'll start to my right here.
Hi, I'm Natalie McGinley. I am with Credit Fix Joe, also ambassador of Alignable, and I'm with Joshua Jameson, who you'll find soon enough.
Hello. I'm Taylor. I am a psych major studying at Eastern Washington University, and I'm gonna master in social work someday.
Nice. Fantastic.
Awesome.
I'm Chris, your local resiliency coach. I'm in the business of transformation. There's a link somewhere that gets missing as far as what belief is driving what behavior and which bad belief is driving the bad behavior, or not necessarily the bad behavior, but the behavior that's holding you back from gaining that potential that you need to succeed. So I step in and I help my clients to uncover those and to move forward and get them on the life that they want.
I'm also Chris. I'm here with Long. I do mostly administrative work.
I'm Leonidas Byron. I currently day trade Bitcoin, not much else, but working on it slowly.
I'm Todd with Lump, LOMP.AI, the new innovative website for buyers to state what they want in front of the seller, and the seller can determine whether or not they want to deal with the buyer. LOMP.AI.
And I am Monica Bradner. I'm the CEO and founder of a nonprofit called Next Era Foundation. And right now our focus is girls and youth. And we also, kind of like you, our 3-pillar framework that we focus on is mindset, or our worthiness, our innate giftings, and then leadership.
Yeah, and I am Zane. I'm with Zebra Go. We help small business owners to get a little bit of their time back. We help answer calls, get customers scheduled, make sure all the administrative side of the business is handled so you can do what you opened your business for. Yeah, we have a great group here. We'll kick it back to Jonathan.
Awesome. So good to have all of you guys out there. Appreciate everybody here in the room and online on Facebook. Of course, Rob.
All right. I just want to make sure, because I don't think I heard it, where we're broadcasting from.
Yes.
Our great partners in all of this, Dry Fly Distilling.
Yep.
And we are downtown at their facility, and they have been very generous hosts and gracious. We offer that free lunch. So if you're listening to us today online, just remember you can be with us every Friday down here for lunch and conversation.
And I want to quickly highlight that Dry Fly is half of the lunch equation. The other half is IDIC Design. Rob Reuter helps us provide lunch for free for everybody. So I can't emphasize that enough. Like when you hear lunch, it's like, oh, how much is it going to cost me? If you're coming to participate, it's free and it's good. Some nice flatbread pizza. I'm seeing a couple nods around the head, especially the college student. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Free food is great. Josh, did you introduce yourself yet?
No, I'm just having fun recording everybody else. My name is Josh Jamerson with Credit Fix Joe. We do credit repair for people that have good credit and are looking for greater credit or excellent credit. Those are our specialties. But I'm also an Alignable ambassador. We do meetings once a month. We have one tonight at 4 o'clock at Burgundy Workspaces. If you're free, show up. It's going to be a huge event tonight. We're expecting over 100 people. So get out there. And that's it. Back to you, John.
Awesome. Awesome. And I do want to emphasize that. And I say this every week. I wish that we could spend a little more time on each person. Those of you that I know, I want to talk about how extra amazing you are, more than what you said about yourself. Those of you that I haven't met yet, I want to like ask questions and find out more. We would never get to the conversation if we did that. So I'm not going to emphasize everybody, but I do want to emphasize the Alignable event. It is at 4 p.m. today. So those of you that are here, like, you already had food. Just drive on out there.
There's going to be more food.
More food.
All catering. It's ridiculous.
Amazing.
Giant catering party.
Where is it again?
Burby's off Sullivan.
Birdie on Sullivan.
Burbity. It's Suburban City is how she came up with the name. Suburban City. So Burby.
All right.
Yeah.
So when does it go till? 4 to what?
We're 4 to 6:30 or more. We have extended session tonight. So 4 to 6 is the official. And at 6:30 we're doing group trivia, a challenge with some prizes. And then after that, we got some other surprises.
The show must go on, folks.
The party, and then the after party, and then the after party. This is a Friday to remember.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Josh, what does it cost?
It is actually pretty expensive. It's free.
It's free.
It's
Yeah. Zero excuses. Literally, the only thing you might complain about is having to drive out to the valley. But other than that, I love the Alignable events. Josh does a great job hosting those. So if you're not doing anything after this, go ahead out there. I'll be there. And on that note, we're cramming everything into today. It's a good time for me to mention we won't be here next Friday. Next Thursday's Thanksgiving. The day before Thanksgiving, my lovely wife and I are hosting, and Leonidas, who's out there, we're hosting a Friendsgiving at our house. Everybody that's in the room, everybody listening online, you are invited. Officially, you are invited. We would love to have you next Wednesday, especially if you don't have family to be with for Thanksgiving. You're kind of out of area. That's what we designed this for, but everybody's welcome. Ask us for a link to the sign up and just let us know that you're coming, and we'll give you the address, and we'll see you next Wednesday. But we won't be here at Dry Fly on Friday. So if you come to Dry Fly next Friday, you can just hang out in the restaurant and learn more about distilling, because we won't be up here hanging out.
Food Coma Friday.
Food Coma Friday, yes, sir. Also Black Friday. There's a lot of other things you could be doing next Friday. We're gonna take a break from our regularly scheduled programming. And now, for the main event, Romeal.
Hey, what's going on?
So Romeal, I want to talk a little bit about you, but I want you to just give us tell us a little bit about what you do at EWU, and if it's pertinent, a little bit about your film side of things.
Ah, gotcha. My side hustle.
Yes, sir.
This is the era of the side hustle. We all have one thing.
Yeah.
We're all trying to get that extra part of ourselves out there in the world. So hello, how's everyone doing? My name is Romeal Watson, and so I have been a part of the Eastern family, if we're really counting it all, about 25 years. And so I did a 10-year stint with Eastern and got every degree that I possibly could out of that place. And when they realized that I wasn't going to go away, they decided to give me a job. So here I am. And so I worked I now officially work in the Career Center on campus, and I've been there for 16 years. April will be 16 years for me.
Awesome.
And so I slowly worked my way up. I was a student advisor for the behavioral sciences. And from there, I went on to coordinate internships. And then from there, now I work with employer relations. So I go out in the community and I work with employers and show them how to engage with our campus. So, yeah.
Awesome.
And so that's my main bread and butter. That's what keeps me getting up every day. But what keeps me alive and keeps me reinvigorated is my work as a writer that I do in my off time. And so since about 2009, I began my career as a writer. And so slowly but surely been building the craft and learning the ropes on what it takes to be a good writer. And I've been going to a lot of pitch fests and film festivals to learn from the greats. And I just got back from LA. I was at the AFM, so the American Film Market, where that's the Super Bowl where everyone goes to fish their ideas and meet partners and try to get business deals done. And so I was down there, and to say the least, I think that it was time well spent, I should say, to say the least. So
that's very cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So I want to jump in, and this is one of the things that I love about the conversation that I get to have with the guests beforehand is like my brain has just been iterating on this. I've been having conversations, but you and I talked, and you just gotten back from LA, and I kind of gave you the idea, like, here's how we come up with top, and you went straight to it. This picture of a freight train, and so I've had the benefit of all week thinking about it, but some people haven't been. So give all of us.
Yeah.
What was that imagery for you? Where did it come from, and how do you articulate that when you're thinking about it?
You know, I'm kind of a philosophy person in my own head. I don't really know where it came from. I just kind of a thought in my head of, we have two sides to something, right? And oftentimes people think that they're in one camp, and then there's people that think they're in another camp. And I didn't know the word for this before. The word is coupling. That's what that's called, the little clamps in between the freight train. See, I didn't know that word before. I just called them hooks. Little hooks in between. But, for the longest time, when I grew up, I always knew that I was sort of in the middle of things, right? I was raised by grandparents, and they're definitely boomers. And my father, who was in and out of my life at that time, he was an Xer. And for a lot of time, my auntie, who was 10 years older than me, she's an Xer as well. But my life was sort of in a haze in a sense, because I was raised with older boomer values, but I still had I was in a very young environment. So I had access to both. And so for me, it was sort of like, I knew I know when the older generation talked about the classics, I knew what they meant. I knew they were talking about Casablanca. And I knew they were talking about A Streetcar Named Desire and all that kind of stuff. I knew that. But then I also knew that my dad had his own version of what classics were. And it wasn't those. It was Cooley High, and it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and all that kind of stuff. And so it was just like, when I thought about my life as it sort of existed in the middle of all of this, and I just realized I didn't quite fit in either world. I was not quite an Xer, but I'm sort of the term we used before, a geriatric millennial. So I'm a very early millennial. And so we were right at that moment where things began to transition, to go from analog to, more digital. And so we had to kind of know what it was like before all of that.
Yeah.
And then hang on as all the trial and error started to happen and all the little evolutionary stages started to happen. And so we're here stuck in the middle as all of those changes are happening and having to sit through all the conversations and all of the, what's the word I want to say? Apprehension about where the world's going. And so me being where I am, I saw the value of both places. I saw the values that came from the older generation, and then as things started to evolve, I saw the need for that evolution that came from the younger generation. And here I am in the middle, trying to get them all to play together in the sandbox. So that term coupling was a very good term. The technical term is cuspers. That's the term they use.
Cuspers.
Those are the ones that are in the middle.
Yeah.
So it kind of speaks to that micro generation of people who fit sort of in that middle, those middle points. And so, I mean, it kind of begs the question, like, if someone who's born in 1997, are they really in the same generation as someone who's born in 2012? I mean, a lot happens in that amount of time. And so I think sometimes we're not having the best conversation when we're talking about it with that amount of time that's in between. So you think about all the things that have happened during the time of being a Generation Xer, and I was little when the Gulf War was going on, right? But they were right in the thick of things. And so to think about how much happens in that little bit of time, it's kind of disingenuous to say that this entire generation is going to speak for that entire time when they're all in different spots and different things were happening. So I'll kind of lead it with that and kind of turn to the group and see what we think.
Yeah. I love it. And I'm very curious. I'm going to call you guys out ahead of time. Younger folks in the room, I want to hear from you. I see a lot of like wheels spinning. Leonidas, I know you're out there, and I forget the name of the EWU student out in the.
Oh, Annie.
Annie?
Yeah.
Annie, we want to hear from you. So actually, Zane, how are you guys processing out there? Let's hear from you guys first.
Yeah.
Actually, Zane actually had a really cool story about his grandmother that raised was it your grandparents?
Oh, no, but my mother was constantly referred to as my grandmother because how old she was when she had me. So being the youngest, and so definitely resonate with what Romeal's talking about, and kind of being between generations, because you're raised by that older generation, and I get along very well with my mother and father-in-law because their parents were the same age as my parents were. So there's a lot that we connect with, even though I'm married to their daughter. So
Interesting. That's good. That's good insight. Anybody else out here have anything? No other stories about generational gaps and how we can bridge those gaps? I always find like I have a 12-year-old, and I always find it really challenging to talk about my old life because they're not interested in the way things were. They're interested in the way things are or going to be. So I think a way to cusp that gap is almost just to start getting in their heads. The younger generations find out what they're interested in, bring us up to speed. Let us get into their lifestyle. Let us get into their generation.
Well, part of it is when you're growing up, you only know what you know. You don't know what your parents know. You don't see their perspective. The only perspective you can live in is yours.
That's great.
The only way to connect to the younger generation is to empathize, not sympathize. Empathize. Wow. Step into their shoes. Try and mirror those emotions.
Good job. That was amazing. That was good insight.
We adopt.
That's why she's going to be a psychologist. That's amazing.
Can you speak a little?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Natalie.
I was just gonna say, I have 2 adult children too that I was always trying to give them little snippets of words of wisdom. And the other day I was talking to both of them, FaceTiming together, and I started to do it. I started to give them little seeds of wisdom, and they're like, "Oh, Mom, come on, we don't need another TED Talk from you." And I was like, "Oh my God." They're still not ready for Mom's wisdoms.
I want, is it Katie? Ashley? Out there?
Oh, Annie.
Annie,
Yeah.
Sorry, Annie. Annie, can you speak a little bit more to the empathize versus sympathize? What does that look like?
Right. So when you're sympathizing with someone, you're saying, oh, that sucks. That feels bad. But when you're empathize with someone, you're getting down into the hole they're under. You are sitting in all of those feelings, all of those emotions, all those experiences they are with. You are saying, I feel what you're feeling. I'm hearing what you're hearing. I'm experiencing what you're experiencing, even if you're not. It's being able to literally and figuratively step into someone else's shoes in a way that you may not normally because you don't fit those experiences. You don't want to just say, it sucks to be you. You want to say, I feel what you're feeling and I'm sitting in it with you.
And we can get through this
Yeah.
together.
Exactly.
You're gonna make a
I like that. And Annie, I'm gonna say your name again, just so that I can say Annie enough times and remember Annie. So I want to tell a story, and I want, like, everybody's been percolating on different ideas, so keep those fresh, and also, like, just tune into this story, because it, like, changed my perspective of this idea of empathizing. So we went to the beach with a family, and my younger son, he's our middle child, got this little tiny glass container that you could put little grains of sand in, and it was this real little fragile. I think it was a quarter for like 3 of them. Like we went up and like we were like, can we buy this? And they're like, yeah, like 5 cents. Like it was just this cheap little trinket, and it meant the world to him. He was super excited about it. He likes that kind of a thing. And we loaded up the car and went inland to our next stay, and we're unloading the car, and as he was unloading, he discovered that it had broken. And he brought it to me, and he held his hand open, and here's this little cheap trinket, easily replaced, broken. And I saw it in his eyes. I saw it in his demeanor. Like this was like life-changing for him. And I said, oh, buddy, I didn't say anything. I just held him. I just gave him a hug. And as he cried into my chest, I did what you were just talking about, Annie. I tried to get to what is he feeling? And what was amazing is that I had so much stuff, and I'm probably gonna like get emotional just thinking about this. Like I had stuff from when I was a kid where I had parents or, uncles or whatever that would have said, oh, get over it. Oh, it's just a cheap trinket. Oh, you're fine. Buck up, like all these things. And so I did. I accessed what he was feeling. I felt it. I cried with him on the streets of Seattle, like checking into our Airbnb. I'm crying in the street over a cheap, broken. But for me, what it speaks to is there's not just benefit to the person that you're empathizing with, it's a benefit to you. It's when you can access what somebody else is feeling. And I'm way out of my depth because I'm a guy that grew up in the 80s. We don't have feelings. It doesn't exist. So like, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I did discover, and I have been discovering feelings and accessing them and operating in them. And it's just different than the space that I grew up with. And so again, those of you that are a little younger in the room, jump in here. Like what's been your experience with this? What do you see when you approach this world?
Well, I can vouch for Asher. Asher's been listening to Andy.
Dave, I'm so glad. I said the younger people, I wanted the younger people to jump in. Dave, you read your cue. Perfect.
Yeah. But Asher's going like this, the whole time that Andy's been talking out there too. So you're right in with this, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What else can you share?
I am also like, from my perspective, like viewing like adults being vulnerable and such. Like my dad, he's very in touch with his emotions.
Awesome.
He would cry at all of the sad movies, and I would just be there and like be there with him and cry. But it really touched me, the fact that the older you get, it doesn't mean that you can be less vulnerable. It actually, for me, it encourages me to be more vulnerable the older I get, the more okay I feel with that.
That's awesome.
I have a question. So, how old are you, Asher?
I'm 18.
You're 18. How old was your father? At that time?
Like 42.
42. And how old are you?
I'm 46 next month.
So 46, 44, 42. See what I mean? Like that's a whole other generation of adults where our parents were like, get over it. And there's an interesting thing that happened is that I know I told myself this when I was coming up. I said that when I become a parent, I'm not going to be like that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that my son can feel, and it's okay to cry and be vulnerable around me. And so it's funny, that generation created another generation of feelers, and then maybe not totally
Yeah.
in the feeling, but they were willing to open up that door to being vulnerable. That's different than the generation before. And it kind of, in a sort of a gradual sort of evolutionary stage in the emotions to where now we're at another generation with Asher where you feel a little bit more comfortable. You felt pretty safe about being vulnerable?
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
See what I mean? And so the father had opened, in our generation, had opened up that door for the generation after to be a lot more comfortable with that moment.
So another way to say that though is maybe the empathy is no longer considered a weakness.
No, yeah, but it took the cuspers to endure that.
Right.
It took the cuspers in the middle to endure that conflict, to make that healthy decision to say, I'm going to make that change for the next generation. But it took that conflict and that tension for there to make that, for that choice to be had, for there to be more Ashers in the world to be able to say, you know, Dad, I'm really feeling like this. You know, whereas before in our generation, you think twice about going to somebody. You know, you go to your mom, someone that you would have
Rubs the dirt in that one.
Right.
Oh yeah. And there's something to be said for that. Stephen, I see Dave raising his hand, but I want to come to you because when we were talking about couplers, you were like, I'm straight up in the box cult. Like you are, there's no question. You're not in between generations. But Dave, go ahead. You had your hand up. Or Rob.
Well, you want to go?
I want to give him time to think about it.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I mean, I swirling so many different places, but you know, I definitely concur with all the ideas expressed, and even within my family, that generational change and things can be seen. So, you know, my grandparents were, you know, World War II era, you know, and a lot of the things they went through was very specific to that period of time. And yet what they experienced and the way they responded to it affected my father and his generation. And then, you know, what he experienced then passed on to me. And yet in all of those generations, there were experiences that we were trying to not pass on.
Right. Exactly.
And so what we've observed is it was interesting that my father struggled for a long time with very negative, reactions, emotional reactions to both his mother and his father because of the way my grandfather had been around the war and just after the war and things. Yet by the time I came on the scene, I'm a early Gen Xer. I'm December of '65, so I went through the whole experience.
Dad's generation. Yeah.
But what is interesting about that is my relationship with my grandparents was completely different than my dad's experience with my, so even within a generation, you know, I can go back and think about my grandfather and remember his humor and things and all the ways he was helpful and things, but he was very quiet. My dad remembers how violent he could get. And all of the things that were wrapped around that skewed him. And so Annie's focus on empathy is also a theme that's important to me, because I really firmly believe that it's your ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes that bridges that gap between things. Because none of us actually have that person's experience. And so we could just go through with our blinders on, but if we stop and say, what did I experience that was similar, that I had the same reaction to, and then tap into that is what makes us human.
That's great. I like that. Stephen, I want to jump to you, and I have a thought that I want to add to whatever you're already thinking. And then Zane and Josh out there, I want to jump out to you guys after Stephen, so maybe see kind of where you guys are at. I know you have a lot of threads, I'm sure. But Stephen, a thought that I had in conjunction with what you're probably already thinking is you are second generation, like your parents were from Germany?
My mother was.
Your mother.
My dad's local. My grandfather owned the hardware store out in Arrowhead Heights. So.
Okay, so kind of a combination, but I'm
Yeah,
curious how
definitely.
that all plays into this conversation for you.
Well, I'm gonna ignore that question.
Perfect.
To get to the thread that's bugging me the most.
Yeah.
Which is a weaving of a few. So we've talked about, Romeal, you said early on, like there's someone born in 92 versus 2017. There's a lot that has changed. There's a lot of, especially as we go on, change is rapid and faster than ever before. And all those changes that occurred, we've also discussed like intergeneration, that trickle down effect, how our parents' generation affected how we behave and how we behave affects our children's generation. But I think I'm seeing with a lot of social media and digital entertainment right now, it seems like we're at the cusp of a lot more trickle up, where a lot of, I can see this, especially my sister, she was working at Washington State University, so she was around a lot of, she was in the postdoc, or she was in the PhD department, so she was with 23 to 29-year-olds when she was in her 40s. And it affected her behavior. She definitely acted a little bit. And then we'd see with like TikTok and stuff, like the young generation, middle schoolers right now have some aggressive use of slang. And we can see that in like other people on TikTok. I've heard people in their 30s talking about 6, 7, you know? And it's like, so I'm curious, your work in the Career Center at Eastern, how do you see that trickle up effect on the generations?
When you said that, it definitely sparked something in my mind, because here's what I think is happening. I think to kind of go back to my original premise is, as each generation learns how to be empathetic, it naturally allows for them to tap in early to the generations that came before. So it's almost like a preemptive measure that the generations now are having, to where even now at my age, when I see my son doing something different, I automatically tap into how I was treated when I did something different, and I nip it in the bud right away, and I jump right in and saying, okay, this is his world. How do I understand it? And we're doing it at a rate now that's much faster than the generation that came before, which I think that's generating the upswing. Because that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to keep the cargoes together and keep them from breaking and separating out. And so again, I think Asher's generation especially is going to be, and Esther's generation especially, they're going to be, it's going to get more and more.
Do you think we're
faster.
getting to a point where the generation carts, the box trucks the box carts on the train are getting smaller? Or
I think so.
Are we getting to a part where it will kind of rebound and make, where it's more ambiguous, difficult to tell?
That's a great question. That's a great question. There's a pendulum swing that's happening with how we deal with societal, because we still haven't thought about how does that way of thinking or perspective work in the larger world outside of us, where conflicts are in an all-time high in many cases, in some respects and others. And it's how does that mentality work well in solving problems out in that world, and what is that going to do in terms of the generational, close, proximity. And so it was interesting. I had this conversation with my supervisor, who's definitely Generation X, definitely. And he has a perspective on how we deal with societal norms in today's world, right? We see what's happening with the immigration issues. We see what's happening with other foreign policies, tariffs. Him being in the different world, kind of swarmed around the Reagan era, his perspectives on handling that is different than mine. Right? And so, but again, as we kind of get to a point now where we're having to decide what do we do in those moments, there's value to be had in both camps. And so, as we talk about the upswing, we're also still talking about the younger generation. We're still having to solve this question of how does the younger generation trust the generations before as well. Most of the time, it's always been a one-sided conversation. Is how do we understand those young folks, but then also too, how do we create a space to where the younger generation trusts the wisdom and the guidance of the older generation?
Sure.
And again, if that doesn't happen, then that's also what's going to create that. What's that word? Is it gridlock the right word for that? Where it's going to be kind of the banging in between, kind
friction,
the friction in between. And so, but I think that's part of what's the beauty of what we're seeing, and also the challenge of what's to come as we learn to sort of answer the larger societal questions. Because there may come a time where we may have to make a Gen Xer or our baby boomer decision when we've lived in a millennial world. If that makes sense.
Yeah. There's something there that I want to jump on, but I do want to hear from Zane and Josh and Leonidas out there. What are you guys thinking out there?
Yeah, so we actually have a perfect segue and tie into this. Todd, I'm going to kick it back to you because your comment about growth was perfect.
So when I was growing up, my father was talking, or when he spoke about empathy and sympathy, he said we're all after the same thing, and that's growth. So understanding other people's empathy or being empathy with other people, it shows that you're interested in growing together. So communication is important with the different generations, but understanding what they're going through for the growth is a big issue.
I also like what Monica, you had shared, kind of a physical connector that used in your family to kind of help bridge the generational gap.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to growth for my husband. I won't throw him under the bus, but I will tell you a story about him. So we're boomers, and when he grew up, there was not a lot of emotions, especially for a boy, allowed. You know, boys don't cry, boys don't do this. And so with our granddaughters who are have been brought up with emotional intelligence, and the younger generation, we were talking about this, Annie, you know, you're very in tune with your emotions. And so for our generation, it's a huge growth for us to learn how to do that and be vulnerable. And so for Christmas last year, my granddaughters bought my husband this little fox. Actually, it's a bear. And it has like a heart that you can pull out of it. There's another symbol for anger, for frustration, for joy. And they'll ask him, they'll pull that thing out and they'll go, Grandpa, how are you feeling right now? And I love it so much because he's embracing that. And I have seen growth in him, even in our relationship this last year, of learning how to give an emotion a name and not be afraid of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's very interesting.
I want to hear from Leonidas too eventually.
Yeah, he actually has something.
One thing that was brought up is intent, and one thing that I kind of took away from it is when you're going into a conversation, you want to identify what you're trying to get out of it, and then when you're in the conversation, like intentionally pull up certain things to shape the conversation and also listen to the other person and figure out what they're trying to get out of it.
Leonidas, how old are you?
14.
We have a 14-year-old that's blowing totally. I mean, talk about the different age gaps. And then we got someone here that's just like coming up with insights that are unbelievable. Good job, Leonidas. I'm always impressed with your comments.
I appreciate it.
And I love the opposite end of the spectrum on that. Monica, you sharing what your husband has navigated is beautiful, and it's just that interdimensionality where it isn't, Romeal, you were talking about, it kind of has traditionally been this one directional, you know, everything flows this way, and we just kind of like every once in a while something will go upstream, but for the most part it's just this long one directional stream. And it is like we're like discovering, and I know we like to malign social media and call it out as being this evil thing that's destroying society, and it probably is. And it is the reason that some of these conversations are being able to happen is we have access so much quicker. Romeal, when we were talking, I was thinking about like this is one thought I keep having all week. Nintendo, right. Mario Brothers.
Right.
We did not have Reddit when we were trying to figure out how to beat World 8-4.
No.
Like we had to go to school and find the friends that had gone to the store and bought the manual that had gone and read through it and actually tried it out. Like we didn't have the internet. Like I'm literally older than the internet. Like there it is.
I had to go to the public library and they have the new hours with a new issue that showed you how to beat the boss.
Yeah. That's good stuff. That's good
No,
stuff.
I can relate to that as well because I'm like, I like to say like I'm Gen Z, but I feel like I'm similar to what the experience is like similar to like millennials.
Yeah.
Because I'm 01. And so I'm like, oh, I played outside and other many kids. And I know it's like Gen Z, like the cutoff is like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's usually around like my 16-year-old cousin. I'm like, we don't know how to
We're not
study.
the same.
You know, you grew up playing, able to play, playing the tablet and stuff like that. I relate to like the Nintendo. Like I had a Nintendo Lite, and I was like, this is so great.
Yeah.
And I was like, even like YouTube or social media, like that wasn't big. Like I think like Instagram probably came out when I was like in elementary school, middle school. So it's like it wasn't as big. So like we were outside, we talked with each other, we played outside. You know the commercial breaks where me and my brother had to take turns using the bathroom. Our show was gonna go on. And things like that. So I feel like that generational gap where it's like we're in the same generation, but there's lots of things that like I have friends who were in the same generation, but they're like, you're old. I'm like, what? I mean, still young guys kind of thing.
Yeah. So good.
As I just want, sorry about this. I just realized that the connector analogy that we're using, you know, there's one model or one view where it said there's a range, and this is what Esther was kind of pointing out is, you know, she's in a generation, but her experience is very different. And so it's easy for us to go and say, well, that's where the coupler takes place. But I actually just completed an experience that I think the coupler is more of a decision by a person to do something. So I am, you know, I'm into digital marketing. I teach digital marketing. I have, you know, Gen Z, you know, students in my class, and I'm trying to pass along. And this is the way I've always been a teacher, is because I'm trying to take the lessons I learned in my experiences and pass them along, because the next generation, without that education, passing it through, would end up having to relearn all of those lessons. And just this week, I got up on Tuesday morning and went through my business work day, and then went into the classroom in the afternoon, and I was with my students. And then as soon as I left the classroom, I got into my car and went straight to the airport and hopped on a plane overnight so I could be at a marketing mastermind at 9 o'clock the next morning. And my whole theory at the time was, am I still 20 years old? You know, going 4 hours of sleep in 60 is nothing. And I went and I sat next to marketers that were cutting their chops with $1 million marketing campaigns in 1990.
Wow.
And he's sitting right next to here, and I'm watching him, and he is just furiously taking notes about everything that's going on in the room with us right now. And I'm just going, this is incredible. He was doing this stuff before I ever thought about marketing, and he's still learning. He's still, you know, things. And I took and literally wrote down, when I came back, 10 things, 10 conversations and ideas, because when I walked up to my heroes, I actually said, so I teach a marketing class. What word of wisdom would you want the Gen Z marketers to have? And I brought back that list. And so I landed in Spokane at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and at 3:30, I was in front of my class going, here's the lessons from the previous generations.
Yeah.
With that. And so couplers are just how we gather and how we share experience and wisdom and things.
There's mechanisms in which they can be built. Yeah, there's another term. There's all kind of terms in here, but there's another term I want to add in here. And that term is called perennials. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, but essentially the perennials, the person are people that they just adapt regardless of age, regardless of generation and time. And so they're always constantly looking for the latest technology, learning more about emotional intelligence. They're just kind of ahead of the curve naturally. And so we have to kind of leave room for that too. And so there was something beautiful that the person in the other room said about her grandparents learning from that. And so I think it's also important to recognize that we're not locked into those spaces. It's just a particular confinement of the time. But we can continue to work out of it. And I think that's one of the things that we kind of make sure we at least leave the room with that understanding, is that this is where we are, but there's room to get out of it. But those are also going to be challenging questions that we'll have to have, is if we're going to engage, if the priority is engaging with the younger generation so that we can teach on those lessons, how do we create an environment in which they will trust us with that type of engagement? And that takes growth on both sides as well, because, you're just a boomer. There needs to be growth beyond that as well, right? There seems to see value in the wisdom that comes from our elders. But at the same time, what responsibility do the elders have to create that space to make that available to them to value it? So it's kind of a two-way street, but there's enough for us all to do in that struggle.
And that actually creates a great segue. This is the time where we normally transition to, hey, those of you that are kind of quieter and don't jump in, we're going to kind of slow down and pause a little bit. And I like to look at my wife because she's one of the quiet ones. And it actually speaks to the point, is that we tend to be, and the idea of labels, right? Like, oh, I'm an extrovert. Oh, I'm a this, I'm a that. The stickier that we make our labels of ourselves or of other people, the more challenging it is to change out the label and be a little bit different. One of those labels is good listener, good at talking. And those of us that are uncomfortable with silence and know how to just jump in tend to not get opportunities to hear from the quieter ones in the room. So Zane and Josh out there, if you guys have somebody that's been on the kind of quiet peripheral, in here, there's a couple that have been kind of on the quieter side. We're wrapping up soon, so we're kind of gonna slow down a little bit and allow for people that haven't shared yet.
Okay, because our friend over here,
Like
Dave's been trying to. And I've been way too much, so before Zane jumps, I was just gonna say, Dave, you've been wanting to contribute.
Absolutely,
an idea.
I just wanted to ask Asher and Esther, how well do you feel that we're preparing you for this thing we call life and the experiences? Do you feel like you're better off than we were? Do you feel like you have more opportunity? Do you feel like the education that you're getting is setting you up well or lacking? And if so, what?
So for me personally, I very unique case because my parents homeschooled me in a very particular way that didn't work well with me. And that was due to the fact that I have a lot of siblings and they were kind of all over the place trying to teach everyone. And because of that, we all had the same curriculum while our needs were vastly different. Some of us fell behind more than others, some picked it up instantly. And personally, I did not get the attention that I needed in the ways that I needed it. And I had to teach myself a lot of things, mainly through observation, but a lot of it came from outside of that, with people around my age who had a better connection to the ways they were taught.
I'll say for me, it was kind of similar to a question you were asking him. I guess I'm a first generation. Both my parents were from Haiti, then moved here to Florida, then moved to Washington. I was like 9. And I just feel like my mom was always like raised me to be like, oh, just shoot for the stars kind of thing. She's like, I don't care what you do, as long as you get like a doctor's degree, kind of thing, to just be like that overachiever and things like that. And I was like growing up, I was always like raised with like my grandparents. Every time I go to Florida, I was always like with my grandma, Monday through Friday kind of thing. So I think just for like education wise is where like I kind of just looked into like what do I like to do. So I think since I was grew up with a lot of like elder people, I always found like always had a strong sense of like helping people. Always want to help people. My future career, I really want to be like a child psychologist. Especially this day and age of social media, we really need that.
Yeah.
So this is for me like I feel like with this whole thing with like I know I was talking to her a little bit about it earlier about like AI and things like that, how AI is taking a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I know it's because like I have a friend who wants to be an artist, and I know she was really worried about like, well, when I graduate, like, will I even have a job in the end? And it's just kind of like scary, where it's like how like with like media and things like that, it's good, but it could be bad as well. Where like lots of things where you can strive for something and then you might not even get it in the end.
Yeah.
So that's why it's kind of hard. I'm like, oh, I can strive for things, but like with things happening in the world, it's like, will I even be able to achieve that? And things like that. And I feel like that's kind of scary with like, I know just for my generation where we're like, oh, we have these big goals, we're outspoken, we do what we want when we want something, we go for it, but just when everything changes, like even if we speak out, can we still achieve those goals? And that's kind of scary.
That's huge.
Would you say that there's more emphasis on making money or
Yeah,
creating a better world with a lot of people getting along better?
I would say more. I feel like from what I've noticed, like what I've seen, it's like more like money wise. I think everything's so expensive. It's like, well, we can be happy, but let's put our happiness aside for the sake of like, let's at least achieve, and then we can still make it kind of thing. But I feel like we're still trying to be open to like, let's just hear each other out. But I feel like how the world is like, there's a lot of hatred. So I feel like it's kind of hard to really hear the love when like so much hatred is overpowering it. So I feel like it's just really hard to figure out like which ways people are going, because it's like prices are going higher. People want to be like, well, I want to love you, but I gotta go for the money. So it's really hard. Where it's just like we're just juggling. And I feel like this generation is really, especially like with the media, I feel like that we're like I think for me, especially like I'm also a psych major as well. And I know the one thing that's really sad, like this new generation is pretty much like they're pretty much desensitized to what's happening around the world. And I think that's a very sad thing. Like I feel like they're in a way growing up fast. Like kids are not being kids anymore. Like they're quick to be like, well, I saw somebody like, pretty much get like hit by a train and things like that. Like they just see it and it's just right there for them to see. And it's like kids, like when have kids stop being kids? And it's like, and I think that's more like that divide and like loving each other has kind of been shaky, because it's like we're just seeing so much hatred that was like we're so scared to even like talk to each other, love each other, like with COVID and things like that. So it's like, why even try to love people when they're just gonna probably hate me in the end?
I got a question for you. You said something earlier about your parents said shoot for the stars, right?
Yeah.
And be high achieving, but then you're also observing the realities that are out there. You mentioned AI, so it's like they're telling you one end to shoot for the stars, but then you're also seeing a future that may not be there when you get out there. What is that? Does that do anything towards like your level of trust from your parent when they're telling you to do something that maybe they may be giving you irrelevant advice? Does that rupture the trust at all, or does that make you look elsewhere?
I would say no, because I know from my mom, since my mom, I think she's been around the same generation as you guys.
Yeah.
No, so it's just like, and it's also that she's different, especially like born in a different culture as well. So on top of that, like a whole different expectation of like, I really want you to do better. Like I want you, you're born in America. America, like the dream. You gotta do good. White picket fence, all that fun stuff. And it's just, I think in a way, like she just like look like no matter what, at least keep going for it. Like I can change my career in the middle. Like if, for example, like I hope not, psychology decides to die. At least to be like, what else can you do? Like, what's your plan? Like, you still want to love people. Like, you can work at a nonprofit.
Motivational.
Yeah, motivation to still just be like, go for what you love to do. Like, if you love people, try to do things. Like, my mom does mission work. Like, she travels the world to like Africa, Haiti, and just helps people, even though she doesn't have much to be like. And she's taken me and my brother to do things to show like, there's people who are less privileged, so they still show that like, even if you do have money, that doesn't mean you're still not made it if you don't have that money.
Wow.
Yeah.
So something I keep hearing from everybody in here and out there is honestly, if we're gonna change things, we need to be curious. And coming from a home that we were raised on a farm, there's 3 girls, no boys, so we did everything. And if you got hurt, it's that buck up, let's keep going mentality. And I've heard so many older people, boomers and then past that say, well, I'm this and I'm just stuck in my ways pretty much. That's what they're telling me, and I'm not gonna change. And it's like, ooh, that's kind of, that kind of hurts because I am in that, born in 1979. I'm like right in that middle. I'm that, gap. And, I can really see both sides of a lot of generations and a lot of thinking and a lot of mentality. But I have that past of like, let's buck up and keep going. And then I have 3 kids that I've got to raise as well and, hear what they're going to say. But if I'm not open and curious to what's going on with them, or I mean, Esther sitting beside me and everybody else in the room, then geez, who am I to really be in a room with anybody if I'm not going to really be open and curious to different ideas, different thought patterns, different emotions? So I need to learn. And that was something that you were talking about, Romeal. Like, we all need to learn and grow and listen and be curious. And really that empathy that you were talking about out there, but just like we just gotta keep going and changing. We've got to stop being stagnant.
Awesome. It's awesome. And we're curious in here what you guys are thinking out there. And then we're gonna wrap things up.
All right, yeah, we got just a few words out here. JJ, you have something you wanted to?
I do. Do you have something to say? Sweet.
Welcome, JJ. He just showed up a little late.
JJ 's in the
A friend of
house.
Jonathan Byron's. We're glad to have him.
Well,
So JJ, take us off, man. What's the word of the day in the last 4 minutes of this Friday conversations? What's going to be the kick out?
well, I'm a month out of running a nonprofit called Generational Lives. So this is a timely conversation. I'll just leave you with this. If you're working with young people, you have kids, grandkids, or working with a millennial, I think this is pretty transferable, but people will always gravitate, no matter what generation, to whoever takes them most seriously. So
That was amazing.
So there you go.
JJ, way to take it out. Anybody else got anything to say here? Leonidas, did you want to just say hi?
I mean, I did. I mean, a lot of the conversation around the table has been about both embracing ourselves as well as other people and understanding our differences. And sometimes you will get to a point of reconciliation or of necessarily common ground, but you will reach a common understanding. And that's important in of itself.
How come you haven't talked more? Good job, brother. Awesome. Anybody else? Everybody's had a couple words here. I don't got anything else to say. Jonathan, back to you. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, we're gonna take it out with a few notes for the just kind of wrapping up. And next week we're not gonna be here, that kind of thought. But man, there's so much in just the last few minutes that I'm like reeling with, like what, like curiosity has been resonating for me this whole conversation. And I think that you can't go wrong with leading with curiosity. And the ebb and flow of it is that at some point you have to lock that curiosity into a level of certainty in order to operate, right? If I'm like, well, I should be curious and see whether I should wear shorts and a t-shirt or, longer sleeves. Like we get into winter, like it's okay to just lock into certainty and be like, you know what, I'm going to bundle up because it's cold out there. And it's okay to be curious. So like there's an ebb and flow to that. Man, like JJ, what you just dropped, like taking seriously whoever it is, like an older generation, younger generation, when I feel like I'm being taken seriously, that's when I open up and I'd say what I'm really thinking, what I'm really contemplating. And so if you want to get to the core of what somebody has been through and how they can contribute to who you are and your growth as a human being, taking them seriously. And sometimes that's easier, sometimes it's harder. And so that's, JJ, that was brilliant. I appreciate that. Everybody that's here, thank you so much. We were on Facebook. We are currently on Facebook. If you can find that feed, comment with your name, how people can get in touch with you. We'll put this on YouTube. So if you find that video, comment there. Let people know how they can connect with you. Just Esther, you talking about Haiti and your mom's mission stuff. Like, I'm very curious about that and want to find out more about what you're doing with that. A few people I'd like to introduce you guys to. And around both tables, like if there was somebody here that you're like, man, I want to connect with you, get into that as we wrap up. So it is 2 o'clock. We're going to wrap up. For everybody that's here, don't run away. We want to do a quick group photo. We will not be here at Dry Fly, but we do want to shout out Dry Fly, amazing partners, co-host of the space, Rob Reuter and Idic Designs. Thank you for helping collaborate with them for lunch, amazing food and meal. Romeal, Asher, Esther, and Annie, thank you guys so much for being here as our guests. And we will see you all in 2 weeks back here on Friday with another excellent guest and conversation. That's a wrap. I'm going to